Hey, welcome back to NetHack from A to Zruty. This is Wes. Joining me is Jeremy, and we're doing something a little different this week. We did this playthrough a while back, and the audio just mysteriously vanished. My system didn't record it for some reason. So we're actually watching it ourselves to recreate some talking points about what happened in this episode.
We know everything that happens after this, so we got to be careful.
That's true. No spoilers. Oh man, got all these things we can't talk about.
So I watched a little bit of the end of the previous episode.
Which was all about bones levels,
right?
Or one particular bones level, really.
You explored this quite a bit, and I actually think that you still actually probably had some more that you could have done here. But I think for the sake of the video, it's like okay. Let's just go to the mines. I think you got the important stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I got a pet. I got a bunch of gear, I think, off the guy's body, although I'm trying to remember now if he had any gear that was better than what I had.
You got Rocky. That's all that matters.
Man, love you, Rocky. What a great pet.
So I want to say that you curse tested some stuff in the previous episode that you had found here. I'm having trouble remembering like what happened before or slightly after this, but you definitely discovered that a lot of cursed items are present on Bones files. When somebody dies in a Bones file, their items that they have a very high chance of being cursed. And I want to say you figured that out with some curse tests on some stuff because if I remember right, you are also still fumbling around all over the place because of some previously equipped cursed items that you have here.
You do remember right, yeah. When you say bones levels have a very high chance of having cursed items, just do you mean can things like become retroactively cursed, or just because someone died they probably had some?
Yeah, it's just because someone died, and it's actually only the items on the person's body. If you really wanted to be nice, there is such a thing as there's such a thing as like bone stuffing. Even you can either for yourself or for somebody else, where you would actually intentionally end a run, like intentionally get killed with a bunch of really good items. Potentially like all the items you would really need to beat the game, with the hope that a bones level will be created and then you or somebody else can find it. And if you were doing that, it might be a very good idea to, instead of having everything on you, just drop it on the level and get yourself killed. So that way it doesn't get cursed because it's only the stuff you were actually holding.
Interesting.
There's also the alternative where people will intentionally create a very obnoxious and difficult level intentionally, like with some ridiculously hard enemy that wouldn't normally be, on that level.
I can believe that.
So people can be surprised by that.
So right now I'm dropping a ton of stuff on this altar here. So this is all the junk that I picked up on the bones
This
level.
might have actually been where you found out that a majority of the stuff that you picked up was flashed. I see lots of black flashes here.
Black flash, black flash, black flash, black flash, yeah. So a lot of this stuff wasn't great.
So this can actually be beneficial. Weirdly, there are some instances where cursed items are actually better. Few and far between, but there are some times when it might be worth having a cursed item. As you found out before in your earlier run with the Scroll of Cursed Genocide, which generated a bunch of enemies around you. I mean, you could foresee how obviously you weren't prepared for that, but that could actually be helpful if you really wanted to fight a certain enemy.
Just like something that I could handle,
right?
Get something good experience off.
Yeah, either has good experience or potentially has. There are some enemies that drop certain items that only they drop that are really useful. Things like that.
That's smart. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Pro tip.
Yeah, and I mean it's not just genocide. There's tons of other items that potentially have useful things that you could do if they're cursed.
Yeah, I mean that was a pretty rare item that I got. So yeah, here I had a lot of testing to do, and then had to decide, what are these items to actually keep, what was worth carrying around.
Yeah.
Which is probably not a whole lot of it.
I don't know if you've really done a whole lot with the gems.
No, gems have been something we talked about. I think maybe it is actually a little bit later, but this is probably light spoiler territory. Just that because none of the gems I had, I was able to identify at the time. I couldn't really sell them for much.
Yeah.
And so I imagine there will be a time where I figure out how to identify gems more effectively than just like wasting scrolls on them.
And
selling them or doing something with them.
There's a one of the main uses of gems is they're not really all that useful. There's some that are. One of the main uses, they have a few important uses, but other than that, they're some of the least useful items overall. One of the things that are really useful, though, is so this game actually has the concept of a score in it, right? Have you seen that when you've died, that you actually have a numerical score?
Yep.
And so one of the things is the items that you have. What's that?
I'm just laughing at me eating the tripe ration and then getting confused and vomiting all over the place.
But yeah, one of the benefits of gems is that they are actually high point items. And so if you really wanted to get a high score in the game, like if you beat the game and you wanted a high score, you could potentially take all of the valuable gems that you ever found in the dungeon along with you to your ascension to give you more points. There's one particularly notable run. I can't remember the user's name, but it was a run that some people were watching over the streaming, like you can in the server there, like I do for you when you play.
Mm-hmm. NetHack.org.
I believe it was, yeah. And it's well known because basically at the end of this game, this person spent. They had basically completed the game all up until the point where they're going to go ascend, right? And they spent something like 20 hours or some ridiculous amount of time generating more and more valuable gems through some means which you're not familiar with yet. But suffice it to say that it's very time consuming. And after like 20 hours of this, by some other means, they made a mistake and went beyond a point of no return, basically, without all of the gems that they had spent the last 20 hours generating. No.
Did they still finish it?
There's a NetHack wiki article on it, and it says something like, at the point that happened, basically the game went idle for like 30 minutes. I'm not sure if he actually completed the game, but
that is exactly how I would picture it playing out in my mind. Just like the moment that key is pressed and that feeling just sinks on top of you, and you just have to just walk away and just think about your existence.
It's actually not too big. It's funny to know, actually, and it kind of fits along with the discussion that we were talking about with cursed items. It's actually worth just mentioning. So what happened is, it's another thing where certain items, their cursed version could potentially have a different outcome, right? So one of the potions in the game is the potion of gain level, which it does exactly what you'd expect. When you drink it, you just gain a level straight up.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, it's a cool potion, and it's actually very, very good because I think we might have talked about this briefly at some point, but levels become much harder to gain later on. The maximum level is 30, your character level. And when you get even anywhere near that, the amount of experience you actually need is almost impossible to raise normally. And so you kind of need means like that to gain levels, alternative means. But anyway, so a cursed potion of gain level it's kind of a play on words. It makes you gain a dungeon level. So you literally like go through the ceiling up one level. So you don't actually gain a character level. But the thing is that the guy was doing this stone generation on the first level of the dungeon, which when you have the amulet is a point of no return. So he basically he grabbed a potion of gain level, and without even thinking about it, in his 20-hour or plus stone generation binge, just drank it, and it happened to be cursed.
So why do you think I'm trying to remember, why did I just dip a pair of iron shoes into something and rust them? It seems like a strange thing to do.
You rusted them. The only thing I can imagine is
shoes.
Maybe you messed up. I mean, you would dip something in holy water.
But then I didn't do anything else. I just left the.
I'm chalking that one up to your inexperience. I don't think there's any reason to do that. Maybe you accidentally dipped something you intended to do otherwise. You haven't been wielding your Excalibur. I've noticed it's on alternate. I don't know if that's intentional or not.
It might have been a result of drop testing a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, you have nothing equipped currently.
Well, I'm not fighting anything at the moment. I'm sure I'll... There he goes. Put it in hand. Problem solves. So, do you remember the name? You said you didn't remember the name of that run that you're talking about.
I'd have to look it up. It's been a little while.
We'll talk about that in a later episode. Something we can talk about while I'm still kind of bumming around here before we get to the real interesting stuff is there's an article on Gamasutra recently that I had read, and you linked me today that you also read about the NetHack 3.6.0 update, talking to some of the development team. Did you enjoy reading that interview?
Yeah, it was cool. It actually highlighted some of the stuff that I sort of suspected was the case. I think I said previously that I really felt like, based on what I just seen and heard, we could kind of expect probably the outlook of a version sooner than what we've had compared to the previous release is likely just based on the fact that it was such a ridiculously long time. But I think
it's a pretty high bar,
right? But
to limbo under.
But I guess what I meant
faster
was
than 12 years,
quite a bit faster. Like I think, maybe even this year, next year. It really seems like, and they didn't really go too into depth on it. He just kind of mentioned it. He just kind of mentioned that was the case, or so he thought. But it really seems like they've kind of ramped up the development with some fresh new developers on the team that are maybe just a little bit more gung-ho about getting things done. I don't know. But it also seems like, based on what they said, after this long period of time, now they've released this new version, and a high percentage of what they worked on is actually foundational work, which just, to me as a programmer, tells me that means that they're about to get, deeper into some more fresh feature development.
That's interesting, and it kind of makes me think about this game as something that has been sort of in continuous development for almost 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, as far as we know,
was it
I think more on and off.
1987. But yeah, on and off. But the interesting thing is, many of the people playing this game have been playing it for a long time. People obviously have very set opinions about it. How do you feel about NetHack potentially evolving in significant ways over the next few years? If they added major new features,
right,
or stuff like that. Like, does it?
I'm
do you want
really
it to change
excited
that
about
much?
that. I'm really excited about that idea. I just want to point out real quick. I was watching the video. You ate a house cat, or a cat that you killed, and got the message that it was a bad idea. I think we probably talked about it in this video in the audio that got lost.
We did, yeah.
But yeah, so you ate it wasn't your pet, but it was a creature that is kind of, there are certain creatures that are just inherently pets, like the cats and dogs specifically. And you do get there are some negative effects potentially of eating those things. When you get those messages, it's very good to watch out for those, especially when you're learning to play, I think, just to get an idea of what you should or shouldn't be doing. Cannibalism would obviously be another one. Which is actually easy. It's actually easy to, this is especially the case with the fact that you are an @ symbol, no matter what you choose. So like if you choose a dwarf to play as, which you're playing as right now, you're still an @ symbol, which is really the symbol for human. It's very easy to forget, actually, when you've been playing for a long time, that like, oh yeah, I'm a dwarf, I shouldn't eat this dwarf that I just killed. Especially if you play lots of games with lots of different roles and you're not always playing the same role.
Right.
I've had that happen on numerous occasions. The other thing that can happen, since we were previously talking about scrolls of genocide, if you decide you don't want dwarves in your game anymore and you happen to be a dwarf, well, I think you can imagine what happens in that case. So yeah, that could be very bad.
I think I just killed one of my pets here when I had gotten blinded by that flash of light.
Yeah, that's also not good.
I guess I had not learned the lesson. Don't swing wildly when you're blind.
It might be actually worth
one
talking.
Of my cats.
It might be actually be worth talking a little bit about kind of like what the actual systems, and I say it has negative effects, et cetera, but like what some of the actual underlying systems are and like what's actually happening there. But anyway, to answer your question that you asked before, I'm really excited about the prospect of fresh features in NetHack. I mean, one thing that I've always wanted to do a little bit more of that they also touched on in the article is, some of the forks of the game and the different versions that people have kind of taken in different directions. I've messed around with those a little bit, never to the point of, I don't even think I've ever ascended in any of the others. So I haven't played them that much. Messed around with them a little bit. I've read a little bit about them. I also have some friends who are into a couple of different ones and always try to convince me on them.
Can you name any off the top of your head?
Yeah, NetHack 4 is a popular one. I want to say NetHack is another one that a buddy of mine plays. There's a couple of others. I can't think of all of the ones that I've heard of. NetHack maybe is another one.
Why would you say you haven't taken to any of them as much as the kind of the mainline version of the game?
That's a good question. I think it's just because I've spent so much time learning the ins and outs of this game especially when I was younger. I've actually felt it's been pretty daunting to me to even try to get into. I mean, I think it's a kind of a twofold thing. It's like
it's daunting for you.
Well, yeah. So I think like I'm not sure I'm gonna like it, and B, I can tell just by playing a little bit like, wow, this is a lot of new stuff to take in. And so like, I don't know if I want to, I think back to how much time I put into learning this game. And like, I think back on like, do I really want to spend that amount of time on something that I might end up not actually enjoying? I don't know. I think it's also just because I'm getting older. I spent most of the time when I learned this game, I was in college and I could just sit around and play this game all day.
Well, hey, if I can learn this, you can learn a variant of NetHack.
Right. No, I would like to. Sure. I would like to delve more deeply into it. I haven't really. But I do know a lot of the features that people have done, and a lot of the kind of things that they've done. And one thing I'll say is, I think there's been some really cool ideas in terms of having a very good understanding of the entire game of NetHack and kind of knowing like what works well, what doesn't, what could use some work. And some of the things that they've done have been direct, I think, like power players of the game. I think I mentioned this at some point, but the later half of NetHack, when you're a very experienced player, can sometimes be very dull. just because it's very repetitive and you're very well equipped to handle everything the game's throwing at you. And so it turns out to just kind of be a slog in the end. And so I don't know which variant this started in, but one of the popular things in the variants is that they really streamline the second half of the game just by making it shorter, making it actually more challenging so that it's a little bit more like the early game where there's a lot of things that can still potentially kill you, even if you know a lot about the game. So all those things I think are really cool, like those kind of ideas. But I will say I haven't seen or heard of anything that is like strikes me as totally like a fresh new concept, if that makes any sense. I guess like a good, obviously this happened a long time ago in NetHack development, but like the introduction of shops into the game, which like fundamentally changes the entire way that the game is played in a way, is something I think of as like a fresh, completely new feature that you wouldn't necessarily think of in a variant, which is just like addressing maybe issues that the core game has, but is just like some completely new feature that, does that make sense? Those kind of things, like I'm really, really excited to see if they will explore some possibilities like that. And I almost feel,
and I know,
yeah,
one sort of like consolation for people who maybe are a little set in their ways and have been playing this game for 15 years or whatever is those old versions of the game are never going to stop existing. They might stop being like the main way you would play it on a service like nethack.org, but you can still just download it and play it whenever.
Right. They say that in the article too. They will go away, which is regardless of what he says, they will. It's always going to be the latest version that people are jumping to. I think
the people play. Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I think it will inevitably happen. The only way that wouldn't happen is if they released a version that was just total crap. I mean, I know a lot of people are there are actually players that seem a little annoyed or irritated on I've been frequenting the Reddit and things like that. I've definitely seen some sentiment from some people that they feel that the nerfs were too strong. And I think that especially comes from players who were maybe just starting to get good enough to, get ready to beat the game. And now this new version comes along and it's like they don't even stand a chance anymore because the mechanics that maybe they figured out, like Elbereth was mentioned in the article, which I'm actually not sure if you've learned that at this point in the game yet, but that was
definitely not.
That was mentioned in the article as one of the big nerfs that they did that I think rubbed some people the wrong way. But it is a very overpowered mechanic, and I think some of the people that are just maybe have ascended one time or they're very close to ascending, their gameplay style, especially in the early game, is based completely around that, right? Because it's like you find the most overpowered mechanics that you can use, and you really abuse those heavily, and you can get far in that way. But to people that have been playing the game a ton, like myself, I really enjoy it. I mean, I've already played some conduct runs like illiteracy, which you can't use Elbereth at all. You can't write anything, or you break the conduct. So I've already kind of dabbled in doing some of the things that were nerfed prior to them being sort of just flat nerfs. And I'm going
to interrupt you. I just imbued my Orcish helm with by reading a scroll, and I think upgraded it.
Oh, right. And for a while too, I think it said, which means it was even a blessed one.
So I guess that just gave me a little stat boost. I had pretty great armor.
Yeah,
armor class at this point.
I wasn't actually watching. Did you actually remove other pieces of armor? It doesn't look like it. It looks like you just tried it out.
Yeah, I think I just tried it.
So it just kind of shows a random piece of your armor. Whereas I think we established, maybe even here when we were playing, that obviously you can, if you want to be a little bit more specific about which piece of armor you're targeting for a enchant armor, you can just take off everything other than that piece.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's kind of wrap up what we were talking about, and then we can I'm still exploring this area. Not a ton is happening. A leprechaun just stole some of my money.
Is this the first level of the mine still? I think it is.
I think so.
Okay.
We're about to get into more interesting territory shortly.
So a couple things to say about the mines, since I think this is your first real foray into them. You have it really good with this character for the most part. You have kind of one of your bases covered. There's a few things that you really want to watch out for in the mines. You want to watch out for the large number of powerful gnomes and dwarves that are spawned in here. Since you started as a dwarven character, a lot of those are just generated peaceful. Most of those are just going to be generated peaceful for you. So already that's one of the benefits of choosing this character is you can really venture into here early with kind of one of your bases covered. The other one that you don't really have covered is there are a lot of traps in the mines, and I'm not sure if you've hit too many of those so far. I'm looking here and I don't really see any trap icons.
I hit one and then killed my pet after stepping on it. So
yeah. Some are worse than others. I mean, you can get lucky and just get there are lots of different kinds of traps. One of them is just like a board that squeaks that kind of alerts enemies to you. But then there are ones that are really, really bad that can do all sorts of things. So that can be another really dangerous thing.
But I mean, at this point, I'm pretty strong. I think I might have been able to take on some of the dwarves if I needed to.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah. Of course. So there's kind of like one example that's always given is some people will say that NetHack is too random and that you can get killed by something that you could never see coming or something like that. One of the examples that is commonly given, which, I mean, yes, it is possible, but, would very, very, very rarely happens because the items that are that powerful are really rare, and the combination of them happening with an intelligent enemy is really rare. But people always give the example of a gnome with a wand of death, right? So you get a gnome happens to be generated on the first level of the mines, and there's a wand that can just kill you, and he's generated with it, and he just shoots it at you and kills you instantly. And yes, that can actually happen, but it's super rare. I've never actually had that specific thing happen, but that's kind of the example that's given as to talk about how NetHack is potentially too random. Whereas another school of people that have maybe been playing the game for a long time might say that every game that you start is winnable, and if you die, it's really your fault. I think the true answer is somewhere in between, but
yeah, I mean, they don't have a guaranteed chance. Well, I guess does a wand zapped at you have a 100% chance of hitting you if it's in a straight line, there's no obstacles and stuff, or do you have a dodge?
Say it can miss, I think. It's pretty rare though. Usually if you get zapped by a point blank wand, it's going to hit you. But yeah, so in addition to just being able to fight the guy, I guess my point was, even if you are really strong, having them friendly is very good, because if they did happen to be, if one of these guys did happen to be generated with a very powerful wand or something like that they could shoot at you from afar, and it wouldn't really matter how strong you were. If they're peaceful, it's not going to matter, because they're not going to be shooting it at you.
And I managed to not attack any of them so far.
Yeah.
Break the peace.
That's one nice thing about being chaotic, actually. If you're chaotic, you can just, doesn't matter if things are peaceful or not, you can slaughter them at will. You're not going to get any negative effects. So I think you got, this is one thing I'm not actually sure if maybe the newer version of the game, these levels are a little bit more likely to be dark. I want to say that I actually, I've been playing a little bit on my own. Well, at least I was playing more before Dark Souls 3 came out. But I actually noticed that these early mines levels seem to be pitch black, like a lot of yours are here. I think maybe they have adjusted it to be more common, because it used to be that, especially the higher up levels, the first couple of levels, it was kind of rare for them to be completely dark. I think it's a random chance. and it gets more likely as you go deeper to be dark.
It fits thematically.
Yeah, no, I mean, even when they're not pitch black, it's still kind of like a reduced vision, I think. Or maybe it's not. No, I think if it's not black, it's pretty good. It's just that you have walls blocking you from seeing certain things until you go around them. But
fell down a trapdoor.
Oh yeah, like this is a perfect example. This one is not dark, right? This one is lit, so you can actually see the moment you step out from behind the walls. So wow, you actually went down. Oh, did you only fall down one level, it looks like?
I think just one, yeah. But there's some elves messing around.
Your dog must have been standing right next to you. He fell down with you.
Yep. But Rocky's still up there.
Woodland elf.
Gotta go get him.
So do you remember the value of elf corpses from this level? I think I was probably telling you to eat these corpses.
You definitely told me to eat them. I actually forget what eating them did.
We might figure out right now.
I know it had something to... Well, did it have something to do with my being a dwarf? Because we are race enemies?
No, not necessarily. Let's see what happens. I think I'm probably telling you to eat them right now.
Eat that elf.
Any messages? No.
So
you didn't get any extra
first
messages
one,
there.
Nothing happened.
Yeah, you gotta be
just the one corpse.
You gotta be careful with your pet walking around too. When you're killing things that have value, like their corpses have a high value, because man, they will just eat them up so quickly. If you're not careful.
Mental note: do not let pets eat elves.
That's one of the nice things about having a horse pet. Well, it has pros and cons. The horse pets are vegetarian, and so they'll only eat, fruits and things like that. They won't eat your guys that you get. But the downside of that is that it's very easy for them to. They don't get hungry as quickly. Pets don't get hungry as quickly as you do. But it's easy for them to either starve to death or go feral because they just get too hungry. Because you just don't find as much of the non-meat food for them to eat just laying around.
So, what are the more evil elves? Dwarf Fortress elves or NetHack elves?
Well, you can be an elf in NetHack.
So I guess Dwarf Fortress elves.
There's some nice benefits to being an elf, and it actually goes along with why they're good to eat as long as you're not an elf yourself. Elves are naturally, and this might be a D&D thing, I'm not sure. Elves are naturally sleep resistant. So any elf character that you play...
I wonder what the lore reason for that is.
I don't know. Like I said, it might be a D&D thing or something. But anyway, it doesn't look like it happened, but by eating elves, you have a chance to convey intrinsic sleep resistance to your character. And you'll get a message that says, like, you feel wide awake or something like that. And those are really nice to get. Those are some of the best effects that can happen from devouring corpses of certain enemies. And that's actually a really, really big point of the game, is kind of learning those enemies which have high value. And making a point to eat those to try to get those, because that's permanent. Those are permanent intrinsics after that.
Mm-hmm. So we're at level 6 of the mines right now, I think.
Yeah.
That's pretty good, pretty deep. I think we're close to finding the bottom of the mines.
I don't know about the bottom of the mines, but at least something good.
Is the size of the mines is randomly generated, right? The number of floors.
It's like a lot of things. It's both. I mean, it's
in a range.
Yeah, it's a random in a kind of range. Yeah.
Got Rocky back.
You're stumbling all over the place.
Those mittens, man. Those freaking mittens.
I don't think I've ever had, in my entire time playing, I don't think I've ever been cursed with fumbling as long
padded gloves
as you were.
I mean, I guess I could have gotten rid of them by now. Maybe I could have gotten rid of them by now. I don't think you could have.
But I know earlier on you tried to like get a nymph or a monkey to steal them, which is actually a totally viable strategy. But
I think it was just going to take a really freaking long time.
Yeah.
Ooh, Dust Vortex.
You kind of have to commit to that too. I think if you want to do that, you want to maybe take off all your other pieces of equipment, drop everything. Which can be dangerous in and of itself.
Yeah. That Vortex
overall,
didn't
like,
do much.
As a powerful character, I don't know how much the fumbling really hurt you.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why it was just mainly an annoyance and not something that I was too concerned with trying to fix, just because occasionally it was like, oh, I'm falling down the stairs.
Yeah, you take a little damage.
Opening a door is obnoxious, but for the most part, it wasn't hurting me too much, like you said. So.
Yeah, I want to see how much damage this does, actually.
I think it's like 1 or 3. I don't think it's even 3. It's pretty low.
I wonder if the fall damage is like adjusted by your armor class or your stats or anything like that. I'm not actually sure. Yeah, it's only a couple.
Yeah, 2 damage. Not a big deal.
I mean, it's nice that it doesn't have like a confusion sort of effect where you can accidentally hit your pets and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would have been much more concerned with getting rid of it if that was the case, even if I couldn't.
Oh, your dog whined. I never used the leash because of that.
I got a scroll of enchant armor. So many items.
You have so much crap.
Oh, so I was making him curse tested there, I think. I don't know why he was carrying a rock around. Guess dogs like rocks.
Likes the rock, man.
Good rock. So let's see. Let's use this enchant armor scroll on something. Probably trying to decide if I want to take everything off and use it on something in particular, or just...
It's another pain in the ass of having something cursed, like having the cursed fumbling gloves. It would be annoying if the enchant armor enchanted those, because you don't want to wear those ever after you can take them off.
True, but while I'm stuck with them, it is still helpful.
Yeah, if it were me, I would probably save the enchant armor until I got that off there. Until at least everything else was decent.
Playing the long game, yeah. But I got lucky.
Hey, you didn't know how long this was going to go. Use it or lose it.
And got lucky. You hit my cloak. Made my cloak even better. Dropped from -8 to -9 armor class. It's pretty dang good.
So you still have the...
I think,
what's that?
I lost track of what level this is.
This is 6.
I know I went down one more.
You can see in the bottom left.
Oh, you're right. 6. Yeah, it's still 6. I think I went up to collect my pet and to collect Rocky, and then came back down to 6. So we're getting pretty close to bottom of the mines, I think.
The Roth. These guys, the Q enemies, I don't know if we talked about these at all, but for your character, you got pretty powerful pretty quickly. You're already at armor class -9 here, which is extremely strong, extremely well defended. But those Q enemies can really be a pain. They just hit so hard. Usually whenever you see a new color of Q, you want to be very careful. Those are enemies that are definitely... I would try to take them out ranged unless I'm really strong. But yeah, I mean, that did like 1 damage to you. Although the Rogue is the weakest version.
Mm. So what is there like a specific gradation for colors?
That's a good question. I don't think so. Like you're saying,
like is there a monster equivalent of
certain colors?
Yeah, like epics are purple.
Yeah, no, it's
legendaries or
I've never thought about it that way, so I don't think so. I have to think about it a little bit more, but no, I don't think so. I think they're just kind of depends on the enemy.
It makes sense. I would expect it to be more kind of just, character enemy specific rather than like a specific scale.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say in general, like blues can be annoying. Just off the top of my head, I'm thinking about like the quadruped blues are might be Mumak. And then you have like the soldier ant blues, which of course are in the logo of our name here. Which I don't know if you've really had much trouble with soldier ants yet.
No, I think I'm trying to remember when I encountered them, if it was on this run or a different one. I think I mostly got lucky. I think bees got me the one time.
Yeah, the bees with that poison sting, especially.
But ants have not been a big problem.
The ants are really fast and really strong, and they tend to swarm. So like when they generate, a lot of times they'll generate with like 4 or 5 of them. Especially with the nerf to Elbereth, it can just be a complete nightmare. Definitely, I think it's like the leading cause of death in NetHack on Alt.org.
It makes sense when you have a bunch of stuff surrounding you that you kind of you can't maybe you can run away from it, but
they're fast though too. That's the thing, is they can outrun you. It's weird. The ants are one of those. They're one of those enemies that's like they're really hard. And then at a certain point, like at a certain armor class and a certain weapon proficiency, when you can kill them in a couple hits, like they become totally trivial.
Which is all about when you run into them.
Yeah. And soldier ants can generate at a relatively low level for how powerful they are. So if you happen to get unlucky and generate those when you're just not ready for them, which is highly likely, almost certainly death if you don't have something clever to deal with them with.
Like a scroll of get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So
here you go. This is
oh shit.
Clearly something's going on here. You could tell actually right when you came into this level, the level generation on the right there looked more like the main branch of the dungeon, with the perfectly square rooms and the doors and things like that. Actually, just the fact that there's a door, you would never see a door in the mines normally. And you've got watchmen.
And there's a watchman.
So this is your only character that you have seen Minetown. This is Minetown, right? This is your only character that you've seen this town on?
Minetown.
I want to say.
To be fair, this is probably the only character that I've really even gone through the mines with.
Yeah.
Like the first few runs, I think I once or twice I like saw the mines, but basically did nothing with them.
So this is an absolutely excellent like first kind of early game destination. If you can handle the mines getting here, there's so much potentially good stuff here. As you're going to see, there's lots of different shops that can be generated. There's a guaranteed altar here with a priest. Actually, you can get really lucky, and it can actually be aligned to your alignment. which has lots of benefits. So this is one of the guaranteed shops, the lighting shop, and the shopkeeper of the lighting shop is Chak, who's named after the member of the dev team who actually was responsible for, I think, doing a lot of the early coding and most of the coding on shops. Some
important code work.
He passed away, unfortunately, and the shopkeeper's name is kind of an homage to him. And it's considered, you can, of course, kill any shopkeepers in the game, just like anything else. It's considered very bad. It's not tracked in the game or anything, or it won't actually do anything to your game, but most NetHack players will, even if they kill all the other shopkeepers in the game, will generally not kill Chak.
That's bad karma right there.
Doesn't have actually any in-game effect, but definitely hurts your real-life karma.
That should be tracked on,
it looks
on
like
nethack.alt.org.
I just saw, this might be the tool shop, actually, not the lighting shop. I saw a bunch of what looked like candles, but I think those are tools. But yeah, that's not actually the...
Ooh, mimic. Ran into a mimic in there. Good thing it died immediately.
So what you haven't seen, since this is your only time getting here, is there are actually multiple different layouts of Minetown, and as I understand, there is actually even more with this new version.
So some you haven't even seen yet.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen any of the new ones. It might just be one new one, but I haven't seen it yet. But they all kind of have their own like themes. This one, I'm not really sure what the theme is. It's kind of like a generic castle theme, sort of.
Maybe you'll recognize a bit more as we get more of the rooms.
Yeah, the whistle. Let's see what happens when you apply the whistle. Not very interesting.
I tried to do something with that whistle. I don't think I ever figured out how to use it.
Well, you blew it. It made a high-pitched whistling sound. I want to say that so that's the tin whistle, which is, spoiler alert, it's the crap whistle. Doesn't do anything.
Just a piece of shit whistle.
I think all it does is it has basically the same effect that you're having by virtue of being fumbling around everywhere anyway, which is just that it alerts enemies to your presence.
Just makes some noise.
Yeah, it doesn't really do much. There's a good whistle, though.
Oh, I'm sure there is. So we just heard someone praising Loki, I think.
Yeah, so that would tell me that the priest here is chaotic. Loki's the chaotic god.
And I am lawful.
Yeah,
so
Valkyrie is inherently lawful, so it'll be cross a line for you. So it's, but it's still good because it's still an altar that you can use for normal altar stuff.
Test and stuff.
Yeah.
And it happens to be located, right next to a bunch of shops, which is obviously a useful place for an item testing ground.
So I won't tell you the details yet, but my first ever game that I ascended, I told you before that I used kind of like a meta strategy, kind of like a fringe strategy to ascend my first character at some point. And it actually involved going to Minetown right off the bat. And it had something to do with the priest that you can encounter, something that you can do with the priest, which is another thing. I don't want to tell you about the details just yet, but it's another thing that I've actually heard was nerfed in this version. So my meta strategy that I used might not have even worked. Yeah, so this is the lighting shop here. It's full of candles and lamps. The candles actually are very important for a reason that will become clear to you maybe much later if you decide to keep playing for a long time. You need candles to beat the game, actually. It's one of the required items.
What?
Yeah.
Not a lamp?
Specifically candles. And specifically
Weird.
7 of them.
Huh, okay.
That probably won't be relevant to you for a very long time. But this is one of the reasons of that shop is that it's, I want to say it's 100% guaranteed, but maybe it's just highly, highly, highly likely that you will get all 7 candles here, possibly.
I don't remember seeing candles pretty much anywhere else.
Yeah, you can find them. They're not super common, but you find them.
I put on my towel there for a second.
I think before shops, I want to say that they were just more common in the mines or something like that before they even implemented shops in the game, so that you could have a better chance of getting them. And then when they put shops in, you just find most of them in the shop. I think that's right, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
So there's quite a lot packed into this town compared to pretty much every dungeon level that I've explored up to this point.
And so I said that these are kind of like they're kind of pulled from a pool of possibilities of these little like templates for what Minetown can look like. But even among the templates, there's quite a bit of randomness in terms of you're going to enter more of these doors, but you'll see some of them are just completely empty. Or some of them might like have one gnome in them or something like that, kind of like they're a house or something. But there's a lot of randomness to like, in one game, that empty room might be a small shop or something like that.
So yeah, a couple empty rooms there.
There's a couple shops, obviously, that are guaranteed, like Izchak's shop and I think the tool shop. But aside from that, yeah, so in addition to the gnomes and the dwarves and the traps that are prevalent in the mines, the other thing that you actually find a lot of, I think it just has a much higher generation, or potentially even every level has a certain number of these things that are guaranteed, is random tools you find. Just tool type items you find a lot in the mines. So if you really need a bag or a lockpick or something of that sort, there's a very high chance of finding it at some point in the mines. So one thing I'll say is you actually, I want to say you've been very lucky, it seems, in this exploration. I don't think I told you much, but I see you unlocking doors and doing some things that could potentially actually get you in trouble. So you'll notice there's the Minetown has kind of a watch of watchmen and the guard captain.
Right.
They get pissed off when you do certain things, and they'll actually...
Well, my dog just ate a person after I broke into their house, which seems like something you should probably get in trouble for.
Well, usually people don't care what your pets do, even if they're eating people. But in terms of what you do, if you're kicking doors down and unlocking things, and I think even messing around with a fountain, if there's a fountain in there or something like that, you could potentially get the guards called on you, basically.
So were the watchmen just not around when I did?
They must have been. Stuff? Yeah, they must not have been in line of sight. So you can sneak it.
Well, I did a really good job of sneaking it, clearly. Because, yeah, like, I'm going into everybody's house. And there's nothing in any of them anyway. It's pointless.
If the door is not locked... if it's not locked, I think they won't have any problem with you opening it or anything like that.
Well, most of them weren't, but I definitely did unlock a couple.
Yeah, so it looks like this is just a general shop that you found here. So I think you actually kind of got a pretty average roll here for your shops, maybe. Or maybe you even got lucky. I don't know. I think the tool shop and the lighting shop are guaranteed. Maybe even the general shop. But then it looks like you got another one up there that looks like a food shop, I think. That one was probably like a random, that didn't have to be a food shop. I'd have to actually look it up to know if that's the case, but this is more or less average for what you normally see here.
And getting some food is a nice perk after traversing 7 floors down to this place.
Yeah, and so you'll see your pets. I don't know if are they attacking the watchmen.
I don't think they have been.
So if you have a strong enough pet, they can actually kill the watchmen, which can actually be fairly good because they tend to have some decent equipment that might fill in some gaps that you might have, especially if you come here early. So yeah, it said you feel a foreboding feeling. So this is definitely not a cathedral of your alignment, but
and a bunch of Uruk-hai just showed up. What the hell?
If you enter an altar or a cathedral, the only thing that separates a cathedral and an altar, and actually these can be generated on other levels. It's not very common, but they can be. Is that they have a priest inside of them in addition to the altar. Mm-hmm. And you're chatting here. You can give a donation.
Give him all my money.
Generous.
Damn. Not even aligned to me. Maybe that'll stop the Uruk-hai from coming after me, though.
Good old Rocky. To Rocky.
He didn't have a lot to say, but he seemed content. No, Priestess doesn't want to talk to me.
But yeah, so if you enter an aligned cathedral like this with an aligned priest and altar, it actually it serves as like a sanctuary. It'll say that like you have a feeling of peace or peace of mind or something like that. I'm not sure. But when you're inside, I think enemies are just naturally repelled. Like they won't come in and attack you.
Nice.
Has some other good effects.
But I'm guessing, so in this instance, those Uruk-hai got summoned or something, but it's not like there's a big, there's not a lot of like stuff to need protection from in Minetown. Maybe if I wasn't a dwarf, that would be different.
Yeah,
it seems like
that's not necessarily true. I will tell you, as we were talking about before, I have been killed by soldier ants in Minetown more times than I can count.
Oh, well, in Minetown?
Yeah. Normal enemies are generated in Minetown.
Where do they spawn?
Just anywhere, just randomly. It's really no different than any other level in that sense. You sometimes can get the feeling that it is just because it's got all these NPCs and stuff like that in there, but no, you can get...
I guess I was under the impression that enemies wouldn't just spawn normally, that it would be... that there weren't any here, but would be spawned.
No, man, it's a false sense of security.
Huh. Do the Watchmen fight stuff?
Nope. They will fight...
Now, see, that's something...
They will fight things...
That's something they could improve.
Yeah, they'll fight things that attack them. So if your pets start attacking them because they're stronger than them, or they think that they're stronger than them, they will obviously fight back. But other than that, no.
See, that's interesting, because for a game as systemically interconnected as this is, that feels like a system that should exist. That's...
You have a sad feeling for a moment.
Did one of my pets just die?
One of your pets just died, bro.
What the fuck?
But I want to say, I think Rocky can take care of himself. I think it might have been your dog. Yeah, you still got your Rocky there.
Oh, did he attack something?
He must have, yeah.
They wouldn't have just like sacrificed him on that altar to Loki, would they?
No,
grabbed him when I walked out the door.
He must have attacked something and got slammed. Which is a shame too, because your pets are Your pets are sort of intelligent. They have some rules around when they will attack and when they won't. So they kind of have an idea of how strong something is. And they also are conscious of how damaged they are. So like if your pet has very low hit points, or if they're up against something that they stand no chance against, they won't attack it. And so if your pet dies, then just by fighting enemies like that, it's kind of unlucky. I mean, they thought that they had a good chance, and maybe the guy got a critical on them or something like that.
Maybe he was hungry.
Could have been.
So hungry.
Well, I don't know, man. I think he's been eating lots of your food.
As I was saying, oh, Rocky just ate him. Oh, Jesus. Rocky just ate his corpse.
He was waiting for the moment.
I guess that's better than leaving him there to rot.
Dude, Rocky doesn't give a rat's ass, man.
He does not care about that dog. It's all about survival of the fucking fittest with Rocky. Getting strong now.
He needs that protein.
Anyway, like I was saying, I was going to mention like Spelunky, and one of the things that's so awesome about Spelunky is the way the NPCs will interact with each other and interact with the environment and with items and objects and stuff like that. And that seems like kind of a no-brainer for this game.
Yeah.
The way there's so much interaction already. It seems kind of crazy to me that NPCs like Watchmen wouldn't fight against monsters and stuff.
It would be cool to have some interactions like that. I can't really think of much of any really. For the most part, everything's just against you. But yeah, for the most part, the watch doesn't seem to really care if they have monsters roaming the streets.
I'd definitely be interested to see a branch or development of NetHack that puts more emphasis on sophisticated AI or sophisticated in the context of this game.
Yeah.
I'm not asking for them to be, alive or anything.
Sure. Yeah, that could be an interesting direction. I'm really excited to see where they're going to go with the upcoming versions. That just getting that, this new version, it's got lots of little cool stuff. A lot of the stuff is really just integration of community made things that they've done that are now just kind of officially supported. And so I've already been kind of enjoying a lot of those things even prior to this. But it really feels like they're in a good place now to step it up and do some stuff that we haven't really seen. So I'm really, really excited to see what's going to happen in the next release or two.
So let's see, what do we find back here? Trying to take everything off.
I think you were trying to get the nymph to take off some of this crap.
To take my gloves. Take my damn
unfortunately,
gloves.
She took your armor, I think. Oh yeah, she took off your mithril coat, which that's the.
It was cursed, but it was actually.
Yeah, it was actually
good.
Kind of good still.
So my armor class just went up to 5.
You took everything off though, in addition to that. But yeah, that actually was still pretty good. Even at a -1, the dwarvish mithril coat is not bad.
Well, she should still be on this level, right?
Yeah, she should. Normally monsters will not travel between levels. It can happen, but it requires pretty specific circumstances for that to happen.
I got a replacement for the doggy. Got me another cat.
Rocky's just waiting for it to die, man, for more protein.
Still tripping. God.
Maybe Rocky killed it when you weren't looking.
God. It could have happened. That's morbid. Oh, there's the nymph. Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
Really?
Man.
He took my sword?
Oh, my God.
I was probably freaking out right about then.
Your shield.
And then the shield.
Oh,
it's taking everything.
It hurts to watch.
If this thing actually
fumbling around like an idiot,
still falling down. If this thing manages to get away from me here, I would be so screwed.
Nymph is laughing her ass off. She's like, "You can go ahead and keep those gloves."
I do appreciate that the game isn't completely cruel with mechanics like that. You know, like if a nymph or a leprechaun takes some stuff, they don't just like vanish forever.
Yeah. It can seem like that sometimes.
But if it does seem like it, it's for a reason, right? You know, it's because of trap or something, you know.
This is one place where telepathy could really help you. Telepathy or detect monsters or something like that. I know at some point you get telepathy. I don't know if it's happened yet. It might be spoilers. But this is a perfect use for that.
So she's probably in this room down here and stuck waiting for this freaking gnome. Slow gnome.
Oh shit.
And I found a bunch of bees. Cool.
Beehive,
a whole room full of bees. And I don't have my sword.
It's Azor the Fighter's bad day.
You're right, Minetown does suck.
A bad day in Minetown.
Monsters just spawn.
I think that should be the name of this episode.
What's that pink thing?
Well, you're about to find out.
Oh, it's a potion.
I think it's highlighted in that way because there's a stack. Yeah.
Ah.
There it is. It must have gotten killed by... Oh, dude, Rocky tore her up, man. Holy
Could it have
crap.
been a watchman? No, you said they don't attack stuff.
That was definitely Rocky.
Dude, that's awesome.
Rocky's got like nymph blood all over his fur.
Rocky saved my ass. Holy shit. Now I can go handle those bees. Probably. So will monsters in Minetown like always spawn off in a room like that?
No, they can spawn anywhere.
The Urukai were spawning, but like, so with the ants, I guess, I mean, are they just going to be like in somebody's house?
They could, or they could just be out in the streets. It could be anywhere on the level. It's just kind of random. It was really good. I just thought of this now, but it's really good that your pet happened to, or the nymph happened to die out in the street like this. One super obnoxious thing that can happen, although there are ways to abuse this as well, like almost everything else in NetHack, is if your items somehow make themselves into someone's shop, like they just fall or drop in there.
Get dropped in there.
They are instantly inherited by the shopkeeper, of course.
Wow.
So even items that they don't normally, so like for example, I think you've tried to sell things at shops that they don't want, right? Like if you go to a bookshop, or they sell like scrolls and books. So if you try to drop like, here's a key, they're not going to buy it because they're not interested in anything other than books, right? But even in those cases, if something is just dropped, they'll inherit it anyway.
I just leveled up off killing one of those bees.
Nice.
Die, bees, die. Got a nice new wand. There's a lot of bees to take care of. And I'm still falling down.
You got revenge, man, for your previous game.
With the bees, yeah. Turns out having a... Oh, Jesus, a jaguar. Okay.
So it looks like this is a proper beehive down here, which is a random dungeon feature that can occur. And it's actually very good because... Oh, maybe not. I might have just been a bunch of bees that spawned. Because I don't see any...
Just a room full of bees.
Yeah. The beehives are very nice because you can get the royal jelly, which is a very good food item. has some positive effects other than just nourishment.
So Rocky's still out there somewhere, probably kicking some ass. Let's see if I should wait. How long I'm going to wait for him.
I think
There he is.
I might have been telling you around this point that I feel like you are kind of suitably strong, that you don't even necessarily need to depend on your pets much, as far as actual engagements go. You're also going down into the mines, which is a branch of the dungeon, which is, it's going to end.
And then I'm going to come back up.
And then you're going to come back up. So you could always leave them and then pick them up as you come back. Well, that was Minetown.
Yeah, that was Minetown. Looks like we're probably going to be wrapping this up shortly after that. Just found another dark floor, fell down the freaking stairs like an oaf.
You're getting close. Minetown is typically about the halfway point of the mines. It goes a little bit deeper. And there is, just like Minetown has a kind of set number of different possible levels that you can get, the very last level of the mines similarly has kind of a set amount. It's called Mines End, and they're kind of special levels. Ooh. So it's something you can look forward to.
Mines End.
In the next one.
Yeah. All right, well, that wraps up this episode, but next time we'll continue exploring the mines.
Yeah, sounds good.